News 25 is brought to you by Bees Embroidery and Garment Printing, specializing in custom and personalized decoration of gifts, garments, and more. Call 775-727-9444. News is also brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law. Call 727-990 today for your free consultation. If you need a lawyer, you need Nelson.
Tonight, an accident victim speaks out about his ordeal and a call for help. And a vehicle hits a power pole and overturns. News 25 starts now.
You're watching KPVM News 25 with Deanna O'Donnell. News 25. Local coverage you can count on.
Siri helps a crash victim contact first responders. It's Wednesday, January 9th. I'm Deanna O'Donnell. Nate Felix is in a wheelchair, uses a cane, and is making progress to walk normally once again. The survivor of an accident is grateful to be alive after being stuck in the desert for hours in the cold. The man and his dog, who is named Pig, were in a rollover. Nate sustained fractures in at least 2 places in his spine following the incident. Pig woke up his owner, who was knocked unconscious for hours after the crash. Nate tried to call for help via his phone through voice commands, but his cell phone was not connecting to friends and family. Nate then asked Siri, the virtual assistant, on his phone to dial 911. Miraculously, the phone made a connection and emergency crews were on their way. However, it would be almost another hour before police and paramedics could locate the man in his overturned Jeep in pitch black dry lake bed. 40-year-old Pahrump native Nate Felix was in a single-vehicle rollover on December 7th in the dry lake bed just south of Pahrump. After several hours of being unconscious, Nate woke up and found that he was actually in his vehicle, which was overturned with his dog Pig by his side. The single father was entrapped inside the vehicle and was unable to move. He was also unable to call for help, or so he thought. With the help of Siri, an app on his telephone, Nate was able to call 911, and first responders came to the rescue after an extensive search throughout the area in the dark. News 25 spoke to Captain Scott Perry from Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue and Nate Felix about the incident.
We were called for a vehicle that had rolled over. The male was still inside the vehicle. Said he had no power, so he was unable to flash the lights at us in the dark. We were able to go on the lake bed. We found him, and then we had to cut the door off the Jeep so that we could get him out.
It was instant. I wasn't sliding for a while, and it wasn't a slow flip. It just, as soon as I felt the rear end of the Jeep start to come around sideways, there it went. And
Were you wearing a seatbelt?
Yes, yeah. I don't know if the age of the vehicle or anything had anything to do with it, or if there is a higher power looking over me, but if the seatbelt would have stayed on, it would have, I wouldn't be able to be here with you right now. But about 3 hours after the accident I came to, my dog was nudging me, and much like he does if I were to sleep in late. Not a scratch on him. Pig, my dog, he is the most amazing blue-nosed pit bull terrier you'd ever meet. And didn't leave my side the whole time, and I tried to crawl out, but I was, I don't know, my whole body was probably about 80% paralyzed. I couldn't even lift my head. And so I was trying to weigh my options, and so I had my dog lay next to me, trying to figure if I could stay warm through the night. And I knew someone would be out to play in the mud the next morning. And after about 10 minutes of that, I realized there was no way I'd be able to stay warm enough. Had no clue where my phone was or anything, but it was worth a try. So I yelled, "Hey Siri," and started yelling, "Call so-and-so, call so-and-so," going through anyone I could think of. And it didn't work out. It said, cannot connect. And so I said, "Hey Siri, call 911, and said connecting. And connected to a dispatcher in Vegas off of just one cell phone tower, to my understanding, so they weren't able to triangulate my whereabouts. But I was very familiar with the area, so I gave them pretty good directions, and because of the rain, they couldn't just bring a regular vehicle or ambulance out to where I was, so they had to have a four-wheel drive ambulance, I guess, come out there. And once they extracted me from the vehicle and got my dog out safe and everything, they had a helicopter waiting for me about 5 miles away. I, broke 2 vertebrae, C6 and C7, and twisted and pushed forward the other 5 above it. And the worst pain is the nerve damage, not the spine itself. The 2 vertebrae that I broke turns out to be the nerve endings for the arms and hands. And so it feels like my arms are sitting in a fireplace. I have a daughter, unfortunately she lost her mom to cancer, and I got to get home. She's been very helpful, very loving. She's an amazing girl. I'm just very thankful for the search and rescue, Pahrump Search and Rescue. They were amazing, amazing. They were very helpful, very friendly to my dog. The folks in the helicopter, and everybody at UMC, and my few close friends that have been helping out. I really appreciate it more than I can say. It's never anything I ever expect from anybody, and so any donations and any assistance that I've gotten, I really appreciate.
To find out more on how to help Nate, you can go to GoFundMe under his name, Nathaniel Felix. This is Deanna O'Donnell for News 25. News will return after this break.
You're watching KPVM News 25. Local coverage you can count on.
Welcome back. Captain Perry from Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue tells us what to do when you're off-roading. Captain Perry from Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue tells us how to keep safe if you're traveling in areas where you might not have the best cell service.
It's good to travel in groups. You should have, if you're going to go four-wheeling, take 2 people, take 2 vehicles. Make sure you have your cell phones, and I would put it into some place that if your vehicle did roll over and become compromised, you would be able to get a hold of that cell phone, because like this case, we could never even find it.
All right, and Angela Miles tells us how Sears is doing now while they're trying to stay afloat.
Topping our news, Sears, that iconic American retailer, fighting to survive. A bankruptcy court is giving Sears chairman Eddie Lampert until 4 p.m. today to make a $120 million deposit that will save 425 Sears and Kmart stores. Lampert made a $4.4 billion bid to buy Sears, but it fell short because of bankruptcy expenses. The Trump administration is insisting tax refunds from the IRS will go out on time, and that the tax filing season will get underway as planned on January 28th. Americans are owed $12.8 billion from Uncle Sam. However, if the shutdown continues, the IRS, by law, is not allowed to send out checks. Oil futures are driving higher. Saudi Arabia is preparing production cuts this month in an attempt to get oil prices back above $80 per barrel. You might want to gas up soon.
Much, Angela. Well, here is Fire Chief Scott Lewis to tell us about last night's rollover accident that occurred here on Pahrump Valley Boulevard.
Late last evening, we were dispatched for a report of a one-vehicle accident with a rollover mechanism. It was reported to be in the area of Calvat and Pahrump Valley Boulevard. As we arrived on location, we found that, in fact, the accident had occurred further south on Pahrump Valley Boulevard, and during the rollover mechanism, it had actually sheared up the utility pole, which caused a secondary scene safety issue for us. Dispatch indicated that there was people still in the vehicle, so it was upgraded to a rescue assignment. As we arrived, we found that all occupants were out of the vehicle. It was questionable how many occupants were actually in the vehicle. We did find one on scene. That patient was evaluated and transported to a local hospital.
Do you know how this accident occurred?
Unsure. The sheriff's office was investigating, but obviously, there appeared to be a loss of control and then a rollover type incident, and then impacting the utility pole on the way.
Passerbys helped the occupant out of, I believe, the front window. What do you recommend in that kind of situation?
Depending on the situation, obviously we try not to have anyone near the vehicle for various reasons. First of all, it was oriented on a side position, so it was resting on its passenger side. You had the sheared utility pole, which could have caused a secondary incident within an incident, and we don't want anyone injured. So the best thing to do is assess if there's no immediate dangers. let the situation present until the sheriff's office or we arrive on location and can do a proper scene assessment. As soon as we arrived on location, we observed the sheared utility pole or the power pole, so we immediately called Valley Electric. They responded, and they were going to be replacing it.
Your court report on the other side of this break.
News 25 is brought to you by William H. Jackson Injury Attorneys. Injured? Get Bill and Robin, your local injury attorneys.
And Unette Gentry updates us on what cases are currently being heard in our courts.
In today's court report, Terry Allen is currently serving his sentence for both of his cases in district court. Terry Allen and Heather Longberry is the Pahrump pair arrested on an open murder charge and an initial laundry list of other related charges for the death of an area teen who was Longberry's daughter. Both Allen and Longberry made guilty plea agreements and were bound over to district court. During Allen's dual sentencing and arraignment hearings for his two separate cases, Allen's defense attorney, Carl Jogger, asked that the court move forward with sentencing after arraignment. So the court proceeded with the arraignment hearing in the case in which he's charged with voluntary sexual conduct between prisoners. The court canvasses the defendant, outlines the guilty plea agreement for the record and the possible sentence. Allen so acknowledges and enters a plea of guilty to that charge, waiving his constitutional rights to trial and appellate rights. The court accepts Allen's guilty plea and proceeds with the sentencing in both of his cases. For the case in which he is a co-defendant with Longberry in the death of her daughter, the court sentences Allen to 72 to 180 months in prison on count 1, 19 to 48 months in prison on count 2, and 19 to 48 months in prison on count 3, connected to the charges of unlawful use of a controlled substance and prohibited acts of a sex offender. The court also gives Allen 259 days credit for time served, orders $6,400 in restitution to be paid along with standard fines and fees as set forth in the pre-sentence investigation report. And for Allen's second case involving sex behind bars, the court sentences Allen also to 19 to 48 months in prison. The court runs count 2 in the teen death case concurrent, and the remaining counts between both cases consecutive. In addition, Longberry was also sentenced in district court to 35 years in prison on one felony count of child abuse and neglect resulting in death. Longberry was also sentenced to serve jail time for the 3 gross misdemeanor counts of child abuse and neglect she was also convicted of regarding her teen daughter's death. Both Longberry and Allen previously admitted to drug use during investigations into the teen girl's death. Autopsy results revealed that the minor's body had a large amount of meth in her gastric fluid and that the girl's cause of death was methamphetamine intoxication. Police say following arrest, Longberry, the victim's mother, tested presumptive positive for methamphetamine, benzos, and cocaine. And Allen, Longberry's then boyfriend, tested presumptive positive for methamphetamine, benzos, and THC. Police also say during their investigation, they found the residence where the couple, the victim, and her 3 young siblings lived was in squalor. This has been your court report. I'm Unette Gentry for News 25.
All right, well, let's take a look outside on our weather cam and see what our current conditions are. We'll have weather in just a moment, right after this break.
News 25. Weather is brought to you by Pahrump's best kept secret, Q Barbecue. Try it for yourself. Low and slow. Queued for 16 hours.
Hello and welcome back to News 46. I'm Michael Donahue with today's highs. In Pahrump it's 64 degrees, Amargosa 61, up at 70 degrees in Death Valley, 57 in Beatty, 46 in Goldfield and Tonopah, 59 in Fallon, and 52 in Fernley. For tonight, 39 degrees in Pahrump, 38 in Amargosa, 48 in Death Valley, 34 in Beatty, 29 in Fernley, and 27 in Goldfield, Tonopah, and Fallon. For tonight, in Pahrump, partly cloudy skies, a low of 39 degrees, our average is 32. Sunset at 4:46 p.m. Winds out of the southeast at 5 miles per hour with 8 mile per hour gusts and 62% humidity. For tomorrow, we're expecting some sunny skies, a high of 64, our low is 36. Sunrise at 6:55 a.m. Winds out of the south at 6 miles per hour, gusts up to 9, and our humidity at 50%. Looking ahead to our 7-day, tomorrow was going to be the last day of sun, and from Friday through next Wednesday, we're expecting cloudy skies with chances of rain here and there, and a 40% chance of rain next Wednesday. For our temperatures, not really too much has changed. Thursday is going to be a high of 62, and then from Friday through next Wednesday, we're just going to be bouncing around in those high to low 50s. Our overnights also haven't really changed. We're expecting our low temperatures to be in those mid to high 60s and just barely breaching those low 40s. So now we throw it back to the desk with Deanna.
Thanks, Michael. That wraps up this edition of News 25. I'm Deanna O'Donnell from all of us here at KPVM TV and Ace Country Radio. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.